Okay, my friends, another shocker du jour from the home of the shocker du jour. No shocker du jour left behind. What do we have here? Well, these are called bentonite hills, I believe. Bentonite is a type of clay. There's another form of clay called kaolin clay, K-O-L-I-N, kaolin, I pronounce this. It begins with a K. Very, very fine, powdery clay. This is a little more dense clay. But look at the colors. Look at the patterns. Look at the people. This is big stuff. And this is biology. It's pure and simple. Okay, this is bentonite clay, and it's a more gritty clay than kaolin clay, they call it kaolin. This is bentonite. Now you see all these colors and see the layers? Nobody has an explanation for that, although I do. And I understand what it is, and it's transition metals that this was an area where there was a lot of blood. This is all biology, and every one of those layers is another type of layer in the tissue of a body of a gigantic, enormous creature. And in this particular situation, when it petrified, the metals found stability with the clays. And certain layers of that clay are not all the same, very, very close, but not exact. So each layer takes on a different color to form stability with the transition metals. Now let me show you something about stomachs. This, my friends, is what's inside of stomachs, all these balls. And you say, oh, come on, that's not in a stomach. Well, yes, it is. You want to know how I can tell you? Here's why. You see that? That's inside of a stomach. It's exactly what I just showed you. That's what's in a stomach. All right, and then there's all kinds of other intestinal and tissues and colon and all that stuff, which I will show you now in a gigantic form, just like that one. You see that? I believe that's some form of intestinal tissue. This guy's standing on some here. They call it pillow basalt. Well, it's biology. Call it anything you want. But that guy's standing on it right there. You see that? They say, oh, that's just magma. Magma did this. Everything is magma when they can't explain it. They just, oh, yeah, that's a volcano, magma. See, this is the Vermilion Cliffs. This is out in the Midwest, or the western United States. It's just incredible. It's just blood gushing out of this. It looks like, to me, it's either intestine, colon. I don't think it's stomach tissue, but it might be. Hard to tell, but it's just all over. It's everywhere. That's literally blood coming out of there. This stuff is just enormous. It needs to be reconsidered, let me put it that way. I'm pretty sure this is intestinal villi, but there's absolutely no question it's biology. He says, this time I've seen a lot of cliffs. I've never seen anything like this before. I think that's what he's looking at, only it's sort of hanging down. And this is what they look like in a microscope shot. And there's a lot of biology going on in here. This stuff is it's so beyond incredible. It's hard to describe. It's just phenomenal. What the human body can do, and how it's constructed, and how intricate, and how many tiny little pieces there are that have to do their job correctly. It's just stunning. Anybody who lives to be more than 15 minutes old, it's just amazing. The complexity, absolutely amazing. I'm just going to run through these kind of quick. It's going to take some time. I showed you the intestinal villi. I showed you the stomach lining. I showed you the stomach lining here. That's the bentonite clays. Vermilion Cliffs, whatever that is. I think that's the villi. This is the interstitium balls. You see these little tiny balls here? That's what we're just looking at below, and I'll show you in a second. They're called Moki marbles. You see all these little strips here? This is what we're seeing on these mountains. You see all these different colors. Each one of these it pretty much takes on a different color because it's a different fiber. The fibers themselves are all different types of fibers in your body. One of them's real strengthy, and one of them gives you a little more stretch, and one of them's a little rubbery, and one of them's a complete plastic bag, that type of thing. They're just amazing, the variety. Now, this would be the kaolin clay. Then you also get down into some deeper, like muscle sort of clays. That's when you get into your bentonite. But the skin, basically skin, is kaolin clay. And they use a kaolin clay on your skin for skin treatments. Now, all these little balls are these balls that they find all over the place. You see these? Those are Moki marbles. That's those balls. That's because the skin has eroded and all that washed away, and now they're laying on a basement layer, which is a tough layer. Same thing here. This is over the United Kingdom. That's the kaolin clay, the kaolin clay. It's eroded away. This is the red fleshy stuff, which I would say probably is more to the bentonite side. And it's coming down here and making mud. And all the balls are sitting in the mud now. They're washed out of that wall. And these are bigger than those, but they're still the same deal. They come out of flesh, where it's holding your fleshy stuff, your skin, right underneath your skin. It has to rip and move and this and that way and then come back. And that's what the balls are there for, to bring it back to where home position, as we used to call it. Now, this is where it gets cool. Why did this turn into salt? And why did this other one here, the bentonite, turn into clay? What's the difference? Why would it do that? Here's some more salt. These are salt spires. Why did that turn into salt instead of turning into bentonite clay? All right, we saw the bentonite clay, and got the same sort of colors, same size is absolutely enormous, but it's clay. Why? Research exposes shocking health risks chemical found in popular everyday products. Well, yes, food. Glyphosate found in there. They spray it right on there before you eat it, and then it kills the bacteria in your body. And that was in the body is the stuff that's supposed to support this, which is a crucial role in balance of gut bacteria. Well, all of a sudden, these are bacteria. These are living little creatures. They're living little creatures. They're biology. They're plant life living in us. We eat the glyphosate, which they spray right on the crops just before you eat it so they can dry it out. It's called desiccation. And that's what kills the bacteria in the bodies of creatures. And then they get sick because they don't have the right gut bacteria. This is simple stuff. A balance of gut bacteria play a crucial role in how MS, multiple sclerosis, develops. And they found it in every other type of disease as well. Gut bacteria is the whole key. And here's the way it gets absorbed through here. And if you don't have the right bacteria in here to create the right enzymes, you don't absorb the food. This all works together. It's a whole big process. The body and the earth is just the same. Look at this. This is Uluru, Ayers Rock. You see this? That's heart. That's a heart. And here's what it looks like in us. That's a heart. And I have so much evidence to support every word I say. I don't have anything I'm saying that I can't support, not a single word. These are the same interstitium balls as I just showed you in the United Kingdom and Moki marbles, only they're thawing out from up in Alaska, and all the moss is growing on there because the moss is inside the body of the creature. It's the same type of stuff we have in our bodies. And it's starting to eat away at the fleshy stuff that's still left on these balls. Because when those balls are originally washed out, they have a whole ton of edible stuff on them. That's why they're sitting here eating them. Wait a second, where'd it go? Here, right here. That's why they're sitting here eating away here. This is salt water, so you got a different type of moss. But whatever it is, it's eating away. These are not what stromatolites that just started growing here for no reason. They're the same as these, only these have been eaten, completely eaten. So what's left is the little hard metal in the middle, basically. There's going to be a hard ball in the center there, just exactly like is on right here. There's going to be a hard ball, but it's coated with something that's quite edible. And they love it. They eat it until it ends up with that. And here's what they look like when they're completely eaten. You get down to here. But originally, when this thing washed out of the body, it had a coating around the outside, which was quite edible to the moss, which was living inside the body of that creature. We have it in us, too. We have plant life living in us. You understand? We have plant life living in us, and that's the plant life right now, the bacteria, and it's being killed by the things that we eat, basically. And then there's all kinds of other invasive medical procedures that put things in that kill harmful bacteria, and they also supposedly inoculate you for other things, but at the same time they can also cause issues with the bacteria that's already there. Strictly research. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. This is blood. This is literally blood running off in Australia. Australia is basically a gigantic bloody scab. There's nothing but blood in Australia. So I'm going to leave it at that for today. But we need to start thinking about, the reality of what we got here. Blood falls. That's blood. And that's because it's melting. This is Antarctica. It's melting and coming out of the creature's body. And I mean, these things are so big, they can gush blood for hundreds of years. Here's some more. Here's some more blood running out. And this is happening all over the world now because the things that are in the earth are starting to warm up. Because the earth is taking on heat, a lot of heat. And when it does, the biology breaks down and the things start to flow. And then you get colors change because the bacteria starts to take over. You get reds and greens and yellows and oranges and blues, all kinds of colors. And that's what we got coming out now. A lot of rivers are changing colors. And volcanoes are starting to erupt because there are covered up biology that's been festering under there and had, it's been kind of cold enough to keep it under submission, but now it's warming up, and when it does, you get these huge releases of gases, and that's primarily what causes everything. And then if you continuous to crush it and keep it compressed, then it goes off explosively. Spontaneous combustion, and pow! That's when you get the enormous eruption of volcanoes. And they're going to erupt right now. They're going to erupt very soon. A lot of them all over the world are erupting. They just looked at the Yellowstone here to see if they were worried about eruption here. Those are lungs. Basaltic melt, they're lungs. This here is a heart and liver and so forth up in here. That's called rhyolite. The two of them come together up in a trachea of that creature's body. And up here where is the evaporative pond up there where it boils off and all that. So the heat is being released. So this one probably won't explode. But that is identical to the structure in a creature's body. The lungs come up, you have your esophagus, trachea, and all that stuff comes up to your throat. And this is where it's boiling off up at the hot springs. So the pressure's getting let out. And these two things right here is exactly what happens in your body, right around your neck. And they come up like that, fleshy areas. That's what this is. And this is at Yellowstone. Stored across Yellowstone, instead of having one sort of large reservoir, it has this, which is the body parts decomposing because they're different types of stuff. This is all made, basically there's a lot of blood in here. But most of this is made out of collagens and keragens because it's a rubbery bag. This is a different material. This is a structural material where you have sort of hard. It doesn't bend and floppy and stretchy. This is the different. And this ends up creating basalts. these can end up creating rhyolites. You got to really dig into this stuff deep. You know. Now, why did this turn into salt? I know why now. I figured it out. But I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you later. You just think about it. Why would this one turn into clay? It's clay. It's mud, like clay. It still has the colors. And this one here turned into salt. It appears like it probably was a similar situation, similar material, but this is salt now and the other one's clay. Or did they start the same, or was one of them salt right from the beginning? I don't think it was. There's nothing that I know of that was salt to start with. Something caused that to turn into salt instead of mud and clay and tissue layers. And then it eroded quite easily because salt has a tendency to really, really just flow when you get moisture on there. And this is a dry region in Iran. However, there's even a small amount of rain can make this thing just turn into fluids. All right, so that's, I guess, the lesson for today. The Earth is basically 100% biology, as is everything that I have ever seen. And now it's thawing out. And this is not going to be something that's going to end well. I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat anything. There is no way to stop the expansion of these gases and the melting, because as you expand the gases more and more, the atmosphere expands more and more. And there's a layer way out at the edge that scrubs through space as we spin. And the bigger it gets, the harder it scrubs. The harder it scrubs, the more turmoil, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, devastation, winds, and then eventually it's not going to work anymore for a place to live. It's just too much turmoil. And you can't, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And as these things thaw out, it's just like leaving your refrigerator door open and all the food starts to fester and get all smelly, rotty, and huge amounts of hydrocarbons, which are very, very dense. And they fill the atmosphere and expand the envelope. The envelope gets big, the scrub gets harder. And we've noticed, everybody knows, weather patterns are changing. They say, oh, that just happens, it just happens. No, this time it's not just happens. It does happen, yes. Absolutely, there's changes in the weather. That's just normal, no question whatsoever. This is not one of those times. This time, it's for real.